Amazing rescue. Single black dad saves stuck CEO. Her unexpected words transform his life forever. Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow as he roamed the bustling streets of a city divided, his mind racing with the weight of responsibility. The phone rang, jolting him from his thoughts. It was an emergency call for repairs at a high-rise office building. He gulped, feeling the familiar tension knotting in his stomach. Was he really strong enough to carry the fiscal burden of Maya's needs any longer? Every hour spent wrestling with plumbing and appliances pulled him one step further away from the life he craved, one filled with opportunity and joy. When he arrived, the stark contrast between his work boots and the polished shoes of the corporate world made him feel out of place. Just then, a commotion drew his attention. An elevator had halted, and from the inside he heard frantic cries for help. Panic tightened its grip on him. Could he really open those doors? But as a father, he felt a surge of determination ripple through him, bolstering his resolve to act. Tugging at the elevator's seams, he pried the doors apart with all the strength he could muster. When the narrow gap widened, he saw her, Jessica Hayes, the formidable CEO, the epitome of success thrust into a vulnerable moment. Fear flickered in her eyes, and without thinking, he pulled her into the light. "Thank you," she breathed, gratitude palpable in her voice. For the first time, Marcus felt a glimmer of recognition for his worth as a person, his skills having saved someone of her stature. Before he could fully grasp this surreal encounter, their conversation shifted from the immediate. Jessica spoke of crushing expectations and the empty accolades that came with her title. Her words cut through his simmering doubts, mirroring the struggles he faced daily. Could it be that behind the business facade lay someone longing for authenticity and connection? As their fissured worlds met in raw honesty, Marcus grappled with conflicting emotions of pride and inadequacy. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as the elevator incident brought them closer, the aftermath began to weigh heavily. Word of their interaction reached Jessica's board, igniting a torrent of backlash questioning her professionalism. Marcus felt the tremors of moral conflict as he reflected on the cost of his actions. Would her precarious reputation overshadow the lighter moments they shared? Was it worth reshaping his trajectory at the risk of being implicated in her chaos? Inside, he was torn between loyalty to Maya, who revered him, and a burgeoning ambition that whispered he could do more than just fix things. He could build a future for both of them. Yet the thought filled him with dread. How could he truly leave the world of handymen, where he felt secure, to branch out into the unknown, a corporate realm closed to him and his kind? As the shadows of anxiety began to close in tighter, he questioned his self-worth. What would he sacrifice for a chance at something more? The stakes had never felt higher, and just then, everything grew eerily still. The flimsy thread connecting his ordinary life to the extraordinary opportunity dangled precariously before him. Could he embrace change without losing the essence of who he was? In the chaos of this shifting tide, he stood at a precipice, knowing that choosing even a single path could forever alter the lives of both himself and Maya. The morning light poured through the small window of his workshop, illuminating the dust particles dancing like tiny constellations. Marcus leaned against the workbench, his heart racing in the stillness, the encounter with Jessica replaying in his mind. That moment of pulling her from the darkness felt like a shifting stone in his foundation. He was a handyman, not a corporate hero. Sweaty, rough around the edges, and desperate to make ends meet. How could he have made her feel anything but grateful? The phone rang again, but this time he barely heard it. Instead, his thoughts were tangled in what Jessica had shared during that brief exchange. No longer simply an opportunity to save someone, it had evolved into a reflection of his own struggles. Upward mobility felt so distant, like a city skyline obscured by fog. The doubt wormed into his thoughts. What does she see in me? I'm just fixing leaks and broken doorknobs. Beneath the shame, a flicker of curiosity ignited. What if he approached his desires more boldly? What if he could leverage this moment of serendipity to forge a new path? For the first time, he allowed himself to dream about careers beyond the scope of his present self. The thought both thrilled and terrified him, a tightrope walk between ambition and fear. With every ounce of will, he started a list. It began simply: skills he had, interests he yearned to explore, connections he could foster. Marcus scribbled down words that resonated: tenacity, resourcefulness, empathy. He recognized that each capability he possessed could be a stepping stone rather than a crutch. But would anyone in the corporate world even notice? Determined to find out, he pulled out a business card Jessica had left with him. Written in bold letters and a smooth font, it felt smooth between his fingers, as if it could transmute his thoughts into tangibility. He hesitated, but there was discomfort and indecision. Why not reach out? He envisioned a different conversation entirely, one centered around collaboration instead of rescue. As he fiddled with the card, the pounding of his pulse filled the silence. What if he proposed an internship or mentorship with her? It wouldn't just lift him out of the familiar, it might create avenues for Maya that he could scarcely fathom. She had dreams shimmering in her innocent laughter. Shifting the burden of those dreams solely on himself felt heavy. Teaming with someone who shared an understanding of expectations could lighten that. But the apprehension still lingered, like a chill in the air. Would Jessica even consider his request? Or would she dismiss it as yet another aspect of the stigma attached to his social standing? He tried to intellectually process his fear, but the emotional baggage twisted around him, filling him with self-doubt. How could he approach a woman who navigated boardrooms like a seasoned general? And here he was, a self-proclaimed tradesman contemplating a leap of faith? His fingers flew over the card as he drafted a message, hesitating with each tap. This would be the catalyst for drastic change, but it required vulnerability, something he was not accustomed to sharing outside the safe confines of fatherhood. As he finished typing, he closed his eyes and hit send, feeling a rush of adrenaline mixed with dread. Now there was no turning back. The waiting game began, an anticipation punctuated by fear and hope. Would this decision solidify his growth, or would it lead to another dead end? As he paced his workshop, the phone buzzed again. Not the previous call. This time, it was a reply. His heart raced as he glanced down at the screen. It might be the beginning of a new chapter, or the confirmation of his place in the ordinary realm he desperately wanted to leave behind. He took a deep breath. The moment of truth loomed ahead. Could he truly begin a new life, unencumbered by his past? The screen displayed the words that would push him closer to his destiny or deeper into uncertainty. Let's meet. I have some ideas we can discuss. Marcus stared at his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen like a tightrope walker afraid of losing balance. Let's meet. I have some ideas we can discuss. All at once, the thrill of possibility and the suffocating weight of self-doubt collided within him. Here was Jessica, a woman with a world of opportunity at her fingertips, ready to engage him in something more than pleasantries. The prospect of a meeting gnawed at him, intertwining excitement with fear. How did someone like him even fit into her narrative? As he paced the confines of his workshop, his mind spiraled into an array of scenarios. He envisioned a stiff encounter over coffee, where every attempt at articulation would come out as mumbled fragments. Or perhaps It would be an energetic exchange of ideas. His hands, used to building simple things, now crafting concepts with the kind of creativity he had long buried under layers of desperation. He took a long look around the workshop, a chaotic mix of tools and projects that had been his comfort zone for so long. Each tool housed stories of the past: a lopsided chair repaired, leaky sinks mended, and walls painted anew. The heartbeat of craftsmanship resonated within him, yet it felt as if it were competing with an inner yearning that he could no longer ignore. "What do I want?" he whispered to himself, his voice barely breaking the silence. It wasn't just about landing a better job. It was about redefining who he was, shedding the old labels that felt increasingly restrictive. Could he envision a future where he wasn't just a handyman, but a resourceful individual capable of contributing innovative solutions? Could he turn his lived experiences into assets that the professional world might value? The door creaked softly as he opened it to step outside. The sun beckoned him, not with the blinding brightness he dreaded during hot summer afternoons, but rather with a gentle warmth that wrapped around him, easing his anxiety. He felt himself drawn toward the local library, a treasure trove of knowledge and resources. With each step, he pushed aside his fears, focusing on the intent of discovery he wished to cultivate in his life. Once inside, he meandered between aisles, fingers brushing against the spines of books that had the potential to unlock doors he had never before dared to knock on. Self-help, business acumen, psychology. Marcus filled a small basket with titles whose promises felt intoxicating. Each book represented a lesson waiting to be learned, a skill waiting to be acquired. In a flash, he dropped his doubts like burdensome rocks. At the front desk, as he checked out his selections, the librarian smiled knowingly, as if recognizing the determination brewing just beneath his surface. Her casual encouragement was the final nudge he needed. With newfound resolve, he envisioned his upcoming meeting with Jessica not merely as a chance for advice, but an opportunity for collaboration. A chance to forge a partnership where he could harness both her insights and his own capabilities into something remarkable. That night, as he delved into his selections, his passion ignited. He absorbed strategies with the fervor of a man parched for understanding. He started to transform how he viewed himself, not only through the lens of fixing things, but as a creator of solutions and an architect of change. The upcoming meeting loomed ahead, heavy yet exhilarating. What would they discuss? Would he find common ground? Could a simple exchange of ideas change the trajectory of his life? With each passing hour, reward intertwined with merciless fluctuations of anxiety. A symphony of anticipation played in his mind, and he knew he couldn't turn back now. After so many years in the periphery of dreams, Marcus was ready to step into the spotlight, not as a specter of his past, but as an architect of his future. The phone buzzed once more. This time, it was a reminder of their meeting, a few short days away. A chill ran down his spine, not from fear, but from the electrifying realization that he was about to confront everything he had ever wanted. He felt the thrill of possibility surge. Would the meeting become the pivotal moment in his reinvention? Would he embrace the unexpected or regress into familiar hesitance? His mind raced with questions as he prepared for a future he could almost taste. The morning sun filtered through the window, casting long shadows across Marcus's workshop. His usual haven felt different, charged with a blend of anxiety and anticipation. He engaged in a familiar ritual, meticulously organizing his tools, but today it was laced with an underlying purpose. He was preparing not just for a meeting, but for a potential transformation. Each tool aligned on the wall represented not just craftsmanship, but also his evolving narrative, a tangible reminder of his abilities. Days passed like an impatient tide, each moment carrying him closer to the meeting with Jessica. Despite the rising swell of anxiety, he found fleeting comfort in the words of the books he had devoured. Strategies and insights emerged like whispers from a mentor, challenging his preconceived limits. The stories of entrepreneurs and innovators ignited an ember within him, pushing him further from the safe confines of mediocrity into the uncharted waters of possibility. He practiced his introduction, pacing in front of the mirror. "Hi, I'm Marcus," he began, but the reflection only mirrored his insecurities. "I'm a handyman, or rather, I build solutions." With every iteration he questioned his phrasing. Did it matter? Would she perceive him as capable or just another face in the crowd? As the hours slipped by, he alternated between confidence and doubt, like a pendulum caught in a relentless swing. The day of the meeting arrived, draped in an air of inevitability. Marcus dressed carefully, opting for a plain but clean outfit that straddled the line between casual and professional. In the quiet moments before stepping out, he felt the weight of his choices pressing down like a heavy cloak. Would he wear it with pride, or let it suffocate his burgeoning aspirations? Stepping into the coffee shop, he was immediately enveloped by the aroma of brewing coffee and the chatter of people lost in their own worlds. Jessica was already seated at a table, her presence exuding a confidence that unsettled him. She looked up and smiled, a seemingly small gesture that rippled across his insides. This was the first time their paths would converge, not as acquaintances, but as collaborators. "Marcus, right?" she greeted, her tone warm and inviting. "Yeah, hi." His voice felt like a tremor, but he steadied himself. "I've been looking forward to this." Jessica leaned forward, an earnest expression on her face. "I've been thinking about some projects I have in mind, and I'd love your input. Your background in hands-on work makes you the perfect fit for brainstorming." Her words hung in the air, a lifeline thrown at the moment he needed it most. He cautiously seized it, allowing the confidence from his reading to meld with his practical experience. "I've realized that a lot of problems can be solved with basic concepts applied creatively. I want to be part of a solution, not just a fix." The conversation flowed, with ideas bridging their different worlds. She spoke of her experiences as a CEO, the obstacles she faced, the weight of decisions, and he contributed with her technical insights from the ground up. As he expressed his thoughts, a remarkable realization dawned upon him. He wasn't merely participating in a dialogue, he was actively shaping it. His voice, previously bolstered by self-doubt, emerged with clarity and conviction. Yet, just as he dared to embrace this new identity, a moment of uncertainty crashed over him. Would she believe in him as much as he wanted to believe in himself? Would he be seen as capable, or would her perception revert to narrow-minded assumptions based on his background? Their discussion drifted deeper, and she leaned back, staring thoughtfully at him. "You know, Marcus, I see potential in you. Your hands-on experience combined with your drive could bring something unique to the table." His heart raced. The challenge was crystallizing. But what if he didn't live up to her expectations? As quickly as it spurred him, a flicker of doubt whispered about the weight of those words. Then Jessica continued, her gaze steady and sincere. "I'll be honest, I need someone who can think like you do. Let's explore where that might lead." Her invitation hung heavy with the weight of possibility. Marcus sat back, feeling the invigorating pulse of hope. But as excitement bloomed, a daunting reality settled in. Was he ready to rise to this challenge, to transcend what he had always thought he could be? Would he stretch beyond his comfort zone? The meeting had opened doors, but stepping through would require courage he hadn't yet fully embraced. In that moment, he grasped the significance of her offer. This could redefine his entire existence. As they wrapped up their conversation with tentative plans for the future, Marcus knew the journey ahead would ask more of him than he had ever anticipated. Would he have the strength to seize this opportunity, or find himself retreating into familiarity? He felt the undeniable urge to forge ahead, but the root of self-doubt tugged persistently at his mind.
What awaited him in this new venture would decide not just his professional fate, but also who he believed himself to be. And just as he prepared to respond, the tremor of uncertainty gripped him once again.
Would this be the moment he transformed, or would it lead him into the abyss of his past? The decision loomed over Marcus like a storm cloud, heavy and pregnant with uncertainty. He could feel the blood rushing in his ears as he weighed the implications of Jessica's offer. Could he truly envision his path diverging from the one he had always known? The workshop he had come to know so intimately felt like a distant echo, a world increasingly unaligned with the possibilities that lay ahead. Jessica was talking again, her voice fluid and confident, but he found it challenging to grasp every word as he spiraled inward, consumed by the questions pulsating in his mind. Where would he fit into this new narrative? He could feel hope wrestling with trepidation, a struggle reflecting in the furrow forming along his brow. The thrill of exploration warred with the temptations of retreat, the comfort of staying within the carefully constructed walls of his workshop versus the chaotic excitement of the unknown. Marcus? Jessica's voice cut through the static of his racing thoughts, sharp and focused. She was looking at him expectantly, her eyes searching for a response. The urgency in her demeanor propelled him into a choice he had to make, now or never. He cleared his throat, redirecting his focus back to the moment. "Absolutely," he said, and the word felt strange but liberating as it spilled out. "I'm excited to collaborate. Let's make something happen." Her smile illuminated the table between them, igniting a spark of courage within him. Perhaps this was the moment, not just the meeting, but the beginning of an adventure that could change everything for him. After the initial excitement faded slightly, they planned follow-up sessions, exchanging contact details for future brainstorms. As Marcus stepped out of the coffee shop, sunlight poured over him, illuminating a path he hadn't realized was before him. Each footfall mirrored the rhythm of his heart, steady yet filled with anticipation. Days turned into weeks, and a newfound energy surged through Marcus as he delved into their collaborative ideas. He began to recognize the symbiotic nature of their partnership. Jessica provided direction and structure, while he contributed creativity and practical insights. His self-doubt still lingered like a ghost, but it had morphed into something compelling, a reminder of what he was overcoming. There was a significant moment when Jessica suggested a complex project, one that required intricate planning and a leap of faith. "If we can pull this off," she declared one afternoon, eyes glittering with determination, "it could set the stage for everything we want to achieve." Marcus felt a ripple of exhilaration and fear simultaneously. Did he have the expertise to tackle something that ambitious? His mind raced, flashing back to his earlier routines, the meticulous planning, the hours spent perfecting small projects. Against the backdrop of doubt, flickers of confidence ignited within him. "I'll take the lead on the project framework," he asserted, surprising himself with the conviction behind his words. The moment felt pivotal, a silent affirmation to himself that he was indeed capable of contributing on this level. Perhaps he was not just a handyman, but an architect of potential. However, as they began putting plans into motion, the pressure intensified. There was a defining moment when, late one night, he stared at the design sprawled across his workbench, anxiety creeping back into his psyche. The long hours started weighing on him, and he questioned whether he was truly prepared for the magnitude of this endeavor. Doubt raised its head, taunting him with familiar whispers. What if he wasn't good enough? What if he let Jessica down? He gripped the table and closed his eyes, taking a deep breath to anchor himself. The voice of doubt met his resolve. The pursuit of personal growth demanded he embrace every facet of this experience, even the discomfort entailed. He opened his eyes, his gaze shifting to the unfinished designs. What if every mistake along the way was a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block? With renewed determination, Marcus dove back into the project, each day affirming a new version of himself. His fear still loomed, But clarity of purpose was forging resilience within him. He was learning not just to create solutions, but to trust in his evolving identity as a competent professional. As he unraveled the complexities of the project, a seed of a more profound challenge began to sprout. Jessica's unwavering faith in him ignited a hunger for growth, yet it also imposed an unspoken weight of expectation. Would he remain steadfast in pursuing this burgeoning potential, or would the pressure push him to retreat back into the shadows of self-doubt? That question loomed before him like the cliff of change, and he could feel himself standing at the edge. As he faced the uncharted territory ahead, the tantalizing thought beckoned him forward. What lay beyond this leap of faith could redefine not just his career, but his entire existence. But was he truly ready for the plunge? Each passing week brought Marcus closer to a critical juncture. The project, ambitious and elaborate, began to take form. Yet with every design completed and every meeting held, doubts flared with alarming speed. The weight of expectation, both from himself and from Jessica, felt like a double-edged sword. He was driven by the prospect of success, yet plagued by an unquenchable fear of failure. As he immersed himself in the project, balancing creativity with practicality became increasingly complex. Unexpected hurdles arose, and each setback left a wake of frustration. One evening, Marcus stared at the design mock-ups spread across his cluttered table, the lines and shapes blurring in his vision.
His chest tightened as he realized they were not aligning with Jessica's original vision. "You need to communicate more clearly with her," a voice inside urged, but the thoughts crumbled under the weight of his insecurities. What if he couldn't encapsulate her ideas accurately? Panic gnawed at his resolve, causing him to second-guess every choice he'd made. It was during one of these restless nights that the opportunity for confrontation became unavoidable. He could either keep spiraling inward or reach out to Jessica and voice his concerns. But expressing uncertainty felt like stripping away the facade he'd worked so hard to build. Vulnerability was an uninvited guest in his mind, mocking his aspirations. "Tomorrow," he whispered to himself, "I'll talk to her." But that promise felt like a thin veil draped over a burgeoning fire of fear. The following day, as they met to review the progress, Marcus wrestled with his thoughts. Jessica fell into her familiar rhythm of leadership, outlining her expectations with clarity and passion. Each word stung him until he could barely concentrate. "Marcus, what are your thoughts on the design revisions? Do they align with your initial ideas?" Jessica's gaze bore into him, and suddenly the room felt both constricting and electric. I'm having a hard time with some of the additional aspects," he stammered, his heart racing. The truth sat heavy on his tongue, and the urge to retract seeped in. But he took a breath and pressed forward. "I don't think the sketches reflect your vision. I need your thoughts." A moment of silence hung between them like an unresolved chord, a testament to the vulnerability he had just displayed. Would she judge him for not being competent enough? Would he tarnish their collaboration by admitting his struggle? Jessica's expression shifted, and instead of disappointment, he saw intrigue. "Thank you for being honest. We can work through this together," she replied, warmth radiating from her voice. The unexpected reassurance encouraged him, dispelling some of the fog that clouded his mind. As they delved into the revisions together, Marcus began to recognize that he was not only asking for guidance, but also taking ownership of his learning process. Each suggestion Jessica made felt like a stepping stone, elevating him closer to a less tethered version of himself. Step by step, the designs gradually transformed from hollow concepts into cohesive plans that bore simultaneous marks of both his and Jessica's visions. In those collaborative moments, Marcus discovered a surprising truth. Admitting his limitations did not undermine his worth, it enhanced it. He was not a lone warrior in this endeavor, but part of a creative team governed by shared goals and mutual respect. And in embracing the discomfort of connection, he found strength. Still, as progress unfolded, the underlying tension persisted.
Jessica continued to display unwavering faith in his abilities, and with that came the burden of expectation. Would he ultimately rise to meet it, or would the anticipation of failure loom larger than the project itself? As he dealt with this new reality, an inferred realization struck him. Behind each challenge lay an opportunity for growth, not merely confined to the workspace, but spilling into who he was becoming. Yet with this knowledge came an unsettling question. What sacrifices would he need to make in order to truly harness the potential within him? Marcus found himself at yet another fork in the road, a defining moment where personal ambition clashed with the demands of reality. How far was he willing to go to realize the transformative powers he was now tapping into? The next steps loomed large, and silence wrapped around him, both intoxicating and terrifying. Would he seize this true leap of faith, or flounder beneath the weight of his evolving identity? The days rolled into weeks, each one layering additional expectations like bricks upon Marcus's shoulders. The rhythm of collaboration with Jessica became a dual-edged sword. As much as it nourished his growth, it also fed his anxieties. He would sit at his desk, refining designs based on her notes, yet every keystroke came laced with self-doubt. Did she really believe he was capable, or was she merely placating him? During one particularly turbulent meeting, Marcus apprehensively presented a set of changes that were integral to aligning the design closer to Jessica's vision. As he articulated his modifications, Jessica's nodding seemed encouraging, but the pressure to meet her standards heightened in tandem. After the meeting, a lingering sense of inadequacy clung to him. As he walked back to his workspace, his thoughts spiraled. He questioned whether he could truly lead a project of this magnitude. The suffocating grip of self-doubt tightened once more. But amid this tumult, a flicker of resilience ignited within him. Surrendering to his vulnerability had been revealing. He found unexpected companionship in their shared mission. Maybe, just maybe, he could transform this pressure into momentum instead of allowing it to be his undoing. For the first time, he considered that he might be underselling himself. As he walked home that evening, one small decision shifted his mindset. Marcus began to document his thoughts. He created a journal specifically for this project, a sanctuary where he could express his fears, frustrations, and insights without fear of judgment. Each entry became an act of reclamation. He wrote about his doubts, but gradually narrated his achievements, like how he managed to incorporate Jessica's feedback into a design that finally felt alive and authentic. One evening, after a long day filled with brainstorming sessions, he revisited a previous entry and read the sentence, "Sometimes I feel like I'm not enough." It punched his gut. This time, though, instead of lingering in that self-pity, he confronted the assertion. Why? He grappled. Was it true, or merely a construct of his mind? The act of writing became cathartic. It transformed a passive experience into an active dialogue with himself. He started planning more methodically for meetings, formulating points and potential questions to bolster his confidence. This planning became not just about managing fear, but also about asserting his position as an equal contributor. By the next team meeting, Marcus walked in prepared, a newfound sense of determination coursing through him. As discussion spiraled, instead of merely absorbing feedback, he challenged ideas, reinforcing his voice with his written thoughts. Jessica, impressed by his contributions, encouraged his perspectives. Her subsequent praise reinforced his developing self-image, and, for the first time, Marcus felt that he was more than just a cog in the wheel. He was instrumental in steering its direction. Yet, as he ventured further into this new territory, the stakes felt more intense. Each successful exchange started unwinding the very narrative that had once kept him shackled.
He found himself teetering on a precipice. On one side lay comfort and the old shadows of self-doubt, while the other beckoned an exhilarating realm of possibility, complete with its own fears and responsibilities. Sitting at the desk late one night, he contemplated the evolving landscape of his identity. This journey had illuminated his latent capacities, yet forced him to scrutinize the depth of his resolve. As he penned down his thoughts that night, the ink couldn't escape the undercurrent of questions bubbling within him. Could he truly embrace this transformation? What new challenges awaited him as he expanded his role beyond the shadow of the initial project? And most importantly, was he ready to face the rising tide of expectations now that he had begun to believe in his own abilities? Marcus took a deep breath. The threshold loomed large, and the next phase of his metamorphosis beckoned. What awaited him on the other side could either fortify his newfound identity or unravel it completely. Would he harness this newfound courage or retreat back into the confines of self-imposed limitations? Marcus awoke the next day with an urgency he had not felt in years. He realized the moment had come. The delicate balance he had been teetering on wasn't just about managing self-doubt anymore, but about proactively claiming his newly evolving identity. He took a moment to gather his thoughts, reviewing his journal entries with fresh eyes. Each scribbled word resonated with the clarity of his growth, yet he knew that further challenges lay ahead. As he walked into the office, something tangible pulsed in the air, an impending announcement regarding the project that had absorbed so much of his focus. He felt a mixture of anticipation and dread.
In the shared workspace, the team members buzzed with speculation about what this meeting would entail. His heart raced. The toxic whispers of inadequacy began to flicker like old habits in his mind. During the meeting, Jessica stood before the team, her presence commanding the room. As she detailed the next phase of the project, Marcus honed in on his preparations. In brief moments of eye contact, he felt a strange connection with Jessica. Her gaze conveyed a respect that elevated his confidence. He realized in those seconds that he was not merely a contributor. He could be a cornerstone of the project. When the floor opened for discussion, Marcus seized the opportunity. He expressed his thoughts clearly and confidently, citing specific examples from their previous designs. The feedback he received was both challenging and rewarding. He engaged with his peers, encouraging spirited debate while maintaining a genuine exchange of ideas. It was exhilarating. Yet, a surprising twist emerged during the conversation. A colleague directly confronted him, challenging the efficacy of one of his suggestions. The tension in the room thickened as his heart thumped loudly in his chest. There it was. Self-doubt reared its head, waiting for its chance to slip into the cracks of his confidence. But instead of faltering, Marcus leaned into the discomfort. He took a deep breath to ground himself, reminding his inner critic of the work he had put in. He articulated his viewpoint with clarity and backed it with logic, not just passion. Jessica's approving nod from the back of the room gave him the encouragement he needed. His voice steadied and strengthened as he navigated through the rebuttal. It was not about winning or losing the argument, but about embracing the challenge and finding value in the criticism. It was exhilarating. Yet, a surprising twist emerged during the conversation. A colleague directly confronted him, challenging the efficacy of one of his suggestions. The tension in the room thickened as his heart thumped loudly in his chest. There it was. Self-doubt reared its head, waiting for its chance to slip into the cracks of his confidence. But instead of faltering, Marcus leaned into the discomfort. He took a deep breath to ground himself, reminding his inner critic of the work he had put in. He articulated his viewpoint with clarity and backed it with logic, not just passion. Jessica's approving nod from the back of the room gave him the encouragement he needed. His voice steadied and strengthened as he navigated through the rebuttal. It was not about winning or losing the argument, but about embracing the challenge and finding value in the criticism. By the end of the discussion, he had transformed a potential confrontation into a collaborative experience, fostering respect rather than conflict.
As the meeting concluded, however, Marcus remained acutely aware that the journey was far from over. Each success felt like a double-edged sword. With every accomplishment, he sensed an escalation of expectations. Jessica approached him as the team dispersed, an impressive gleam in her eyes. She commended him not only for his input, but also for the grace with which he handled the criticism. Her words acted as a balm to his lingering insecurities. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Jessica expressed a desire to collaborate on a new, more ambitious initiative, something that could set them apart in the competitive landscape. The prospect thrilled him, but also instilled a fresh wave of trepidation. Here was an opportunity to magnify his role, yet it could easily become a crucible that tested his evolving self-image. As he left the office, a whirlwind of emotions cascaded through him. Could he anchor himself in this new challenge without losing sight of his core?
Would he remain open to the growth that came with constant evolution, or would he resort to the familiar shadows of self-doubt? His thoughts ricocheted around the implications of Jessica's proposal. The next challenge loomed large, but so did the burgeoning excitement that accompanied it. One question echoed in his mind. Was he ready to rise to the occasion and fully embrace the journey ahead? As he stepped into the night, he found himself at a crossroads once again. The moment for transformation was near, but could he fully embrace what awaited just beyond his comfort zone? Would his next decision define his trajectory? Leading this project alongside Jessica might change everything, or unearth the very insecurities he sought to overcome. He felt the weight of possibility settle on his shoulders, both thrilling and daunting. The following morning, the sun peeked through the blinds, casting a warm glow across Marcus's room. He lay still for a moment, grappling with the implications of Jessica's proposal that flooded his mind like a persistent tide. Each thought was laced with an intoxicating mix of excitement and anxiety. He understood that this wasn't merely a professional opportunity. It signified a chance for profound personal evolution. As he prepared for the day, Marcus reflected on his role in the company and what it meant to collaborate with someone of Jessica's caliber. He wondered if he was ready to step out of the shadows. This project required not just creativity, but leadership, the very aspect he had often shied away from. The nuances of self-doubt still lingered, yet he found hope in the belief that this new venture could shatter the boundaries he had erected for himself. Arriving at the office, the air was electric with activity. His colleagues exchanged excited murmurs about the ambitious initiative. They seemed unaware of the weight tightening around Marcus's chest. The perception that he needed to prove himself only intensified as he settled at his desk. Was he capable of meeting Jessica's expectations? Those shadows of self-doubt whispered incessantly, beckoning to undermine his resolve. When the team gathered for their first brainstorming session, Marcus felt both anticipation and trepidation. Jessica began the meeting by outlining the vision for their project with contagious enthusiasm. Each word she spoke stoked the fire of determination within him. He perceived the elevated stakes, the gravity of their intentions. But how could he contribute meaningfully when the pressure seemed so palpable? With his heart racing, Marcus fought to quell the self-doubt swirling at the periphery of his thoughts. He decided right then that this would not be just another passive role. He had to take charge. He drew in a deep breath, steeling himself, and previously gathered notes on market trends and innovative strategies materialized in his mind. Step by step, he allowed his ideas to unfurl. As Marcus shared his insights, he felt a surprising wave of confidence carry his words. The room shifted to focus on him, eyes brightening with interest as he outlined a framework for their project. He integrated concepts that reflected current trends, coupling them with the company's core values. For the first time in a long while, it felt as if he wasn't just talking, he was truly leading. Even though the conversation blossomed, not everyone was on board. Skepticism emerged from a well-experienced colleague who objected to Marcus's approach.
The room thickened with tension, but instead of withdrawing into insecurity, Marcus stood his ground, acknowledging the critique with humility while defending his vision with new vigor. He transformed the challenged moment into a dialogue, weaving in the collaborative spirit they had all endorsed. Jessica's watchful gaze reassured him as Marcus articulated his responses. Her nods punctuated the discussion, affirming his contributions and galvanizing the energy in the room. At the meeting's conclusion, he felt accomplished, but the thrill was tinged with uncertainty. Had he actually proven himself, or was this just one step in a long journey of self-discovery? The team left with a sense of purpose, discussing the next stages of planning as though they were ready to conquer the world. Marcus lingered back, allowing the remnants of doubt to wash over him. Yes, he had stepped forward, but was he truly ready to maintain this newfound assertiveness amid the challenges that would surely follow? As Marcus walked to his car, he couldn't shake the feeling that this collaborative endeavor with Jessica was more than just professional. It felt personal. With a deep commitment to embrace growth, he grasped the steering wheel, reminding himself of the stakes at hand. Could he sustain this momentum, or would the shadows of doubt overtake him once again? In the silence of the car, one pressing question occupied his mind. What would it take to turn this burgeoning partnership with Jessica into an opportunity not just for career advancement, but for authentic transformation? His next decision loomed ahead, heavy with both promise and peril, driving him toward an unknown new chapter waiting to unfold. The morning light broke through the workshop window, illuminating the array of tools and unfinished projects that had once defined Marcus's life. Yet today felt different. It pulsed with potential and energy, signaling the dawn of a new chapter, where he was no longer merely a handyman, but an active participant in his own destiny. The anticipation of the upcoming meeting with Jessica hummed in the air. This wasn't just another project, it was a testament to his evolution. As he prepared himself mentally, Marcus felt a surge of resolve. No longer burdened solely by the fear of inadequacy, he embraced a burgeoning confidence cultivated from months of navigating challenges and opportunities along Jessica.
He was ready to step forward, not just to impress, but to lead. Each interaction had removed a layer of self-doubt, and he recognized that he possessed the capability to shape outcomes rather than merely witness them. When he arrived at the office, the buzz of activity encapsulated him. Colleagues moved with purpose, each immersed in their tasks. Marcus inhaled deeply, drawing strength from this charged environment. Time had passed since he had merely been part of the backdrop. Today, he was at the forefront. The air felt electric, laced with expectation, as if they were on the cusp of something monumental. In the first strategy session, eager discussions filled the room, and Jessica initiated the meeting with unabashed enthusiasm. "Our goal isn't just to complete a project," she declared, her eyes sparkling. "We want to innovate and reshape how we approach our work." Marcus felt a ripple of excitement course through him. This was not just a creative endeavor, it was an invitation to impact. As ideas bounced around, Marcus seized his moment and shared insights he documented in the weeks leading up to this. He introduced concepts merging their past experiences with innovative tactics. Clarity emerged in his voice, and he suddenly felt invincible. Each suggestion felt like a spark that ignited enthusiasm around the table. The palpable shift in his colleagues' demeanor reassured him. He was no longer merely attempting to keep pace, he was setting the tempo. But just as he began to feel invulnerable, a seasoned colleague challenged one of his ideas. A hushed silence enveloped the room, as the critic's skepticism cast a shadow over what had been an uplifting discussion. Yet Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, he acknowledged the concern with respect, transforming the critique into a springboard for deeper discussion. "You're right to question that," he said. "However, if we look at it from this perspective," he reframed the conversation, turning scrutiny into collaboration,
a testament to his growth. Jessica nodded with approval, sensing the shift. As the meeting unfolded, she engaged with Marcus as a partner rather than a mentor, reflecting the equity that had developed between them. By the meeting's end, they stood not just as co-workers, but as allies shaping a vision. Outside the conference room, Marcus felt a weight lift. The tangible validation of his contributions had registered within him as both real and deserved. The lingering echoes of self-doubt faced a new adversary, the firm belief in his capabilities. The transition from handyman to innovator was no longer a distant dream. It was his present reality. The weeks that followed surged with momentum as Marcus and Jessica worked intimately, wrestling with intricacies in planning and execution. The once distant aspirations coalesced into measurable achievements, each successful milestone reinforcing Marcus's confidence.
The elevator had once felt like a cage, but now it served as a conduit to their collaborative spirit, the kind he had always craved but never grasped. The intricacies of business consulting became tangible, alive with energy and enthusiasm, and they began to forge a reputation. This newfound recognition extended beyond their circle. In a defining moment, Jessica invited Marcus to co-present their project at a quarterly meeting, an opportunity to showcase their vision to the entire organization. As they prepared, Marcus felt the thrill of anticipation mingling with nerves. The fear of failure still whispered in the back of his mind, yet the roar of potential shouted louder. Standing in front of the collective assembly, Marcus's voice, once hesitant, projected with clarity. He spoke with authority, articulating their objectives and strategies while maintaining an air of authenticity that characterized their partnership. The audience responded with engagement, their nods affirming his worthiness on that stage. As the applause blossomed after the presentation, a wave of catharsis washed over him. This was it. The confluence of all the hard work, the doubts, the learning, and the triumphs coalesced into this singular moment. He had conquered not just the task at hand, but the self-limiting beliefs that had confined him for so long. Later that week, Marcus received a commendation from the company's executives, recognizing him as a promising innovator. This accolade punctuated his journey, affirming his role in the project and, more importantly, his personal transformation. Months later, as he dismantled an old piece of furniture in his workshop, now gathering dust from disuse, he smiled. The workshop no longer defined him. It was simply a part of his history. Marcus had emerged not just as a handyman, but as an innovator, a problem solver, and a partner. He had reshaped not just his career trajectory, but his entire self-perception. Satisfied and fulfilled, Marcus acknowledged the journey ahead would still hold challenges. Yet the confidence he had built fortified him against doubt. He was on a path of success, learning to embrace new opportunities, while understanding that real growth came not just from achievements, but from confronting the challenges that lay ahead. This was his moment. Now, if you appreciated this powerful transformation story, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and ensure you never miss an exclusive emotional story again. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more people who need inspiration. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this powerful journey of personal overcoming. Don't wait even one more second. Your interaction makes all the difference. Also, we want to hear from you. Leave a comment sharing your reactions and theories about Marcus's incredible journey.